Welcome to State and Local. My guest today is Marcus Vaughn. He's running for re-election for our state rep, and I'm just very pleased to have him here today. Take some time out of his schedule. I just want to mention I did offer an interview to his opponent, Kevin Calcutt, about maybe 2 weeks ago, but I haven't heard back. So maybe we'll have him here on as well. So, listen, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Anne-Marie. Pleasure to be here again with you today.
I was wondering if you might talk a little bit about yourself, because people that may be new to the district that don't know about you, they know who their rep is, hopefully, but.
Yes. So again, Marcus Vaughn. So I am in my first term as your state representative here in 9th Norfolk. So that encompasses the towns, the Tri-Town, Rentham, Norfolk, Plainville, and then precincts 1 in Millis, precincts 3 and 4 in Medfield, and precinct 5 in Walpole.
How many people does that comprise?
The constituent base comprises of about 43,000 constituents across the 6 towns. I share part of the district with Representative Denise Garlick in Medfield, James DeRosa in Millis, and then we actually have 4 representatives in Walpole between Paul McMurtry, John Rogers, and Ted Phillips.
Okay. Go ahead. I interrupted you.
I live in Rentham, a resident of Rentham. Been a resident for about 14 years. Grew up in North Attleboro, so very close by. I have a wife and 3 kids. My daughter is 17 years old, is a junior at King Philip High School. 2 boys, aged 12 and 7, at the Rentham public school system. I am also a small business owner, so I own a electronic security business, and I've owned that for almost 8 years now. Always been a integral part of the community. Been involved in coaching in lots of community programs. So very happy to serve. Never really imagined myself being a state representative, but I think it was kind of like a natural progression. And looking for my second term, here coming up in November.
So if you never imagined yourself as being a state rep, how did that happen?
Yeah, so I was actually, on the path of going towards a school committee position. And then at that time, in the 11th hour, my predecessor, Sean Dooley, State Representative Sean Dooley, decided to run for a Senate seat.
He sort of encouraged you, didn't he?
Yes. I mean, with Sean and I, really good friends over, many years, actually coached together. He came to me with the opportunity amongst a couple other, notable community leaders, mulled it over for about 2.5 months, and decided to throw my name in the ring. So
do any of your children run? I've run track.
So
obviously,
my daughter did run track for a little bit. My son has my 6th grade son has some interest, but
you were.
I was a track runner. Yes, I was a football and track runner, and I continued my track career at Syracuse University. My 4 years there, and then obtained my master's in international business at California State University. So did that online because at the time I was traveling all over the country for work. So that was the only way I was able to get my studies completed.
It's interesting. Now, I just wanted to ask a few things. Now, what do you know about I understand that the Cape Cod Bridge, they're talking about a $4.5 billion price tag to, what are they going to start with, Sagamore, I believe?
Yes, Sagamore Bridge, obviously, critical infrastructure here in the state of Massachusetts and the Commonwealth, desperately in need of repair, and it's, great coordination effort between the Commonwealth and our federal agencies to make sure those bridges are repaired as they should be, amongst a lot of other bridges across the state and across our country that are in need of desperate repair.
Now, I heard the state's committing $700 million.
Yes, that's
and looking for money elsewhere.
And we're obviously, we can't do it all alone. So we're looking, and working with our federal partners to make sure that this bridge project is well funded, for the foreseeable future.
Those bridges were built in the 20s.
Yes.
It's always kind of charming to see that old sort of graphic font, I mean, that, on the bridge as you go by.
Yes, it most certainly is, and obviously, between Cape Cod and the eastern seaboard of Massachusetts, and that bridge between the two parts of the Commonwealth is critically important, not only for Bay Staters, but people coming in to visit.
Tourists.
And a lot of tourists here in New England, frequent that bridge. So. Yeah, we need to keep it in operation.
Well, they'll have to see if they can do it before the summer season, because it'd be a great loss of income.
Yes, I mean,
for those people.
It's going to have to be done in different phases. So they'll be shutting down lanes, as they progress through the project. They can't do it all in one.
No, even so.
So yeah, it'll just be a total mess unless you're doing it in the winter. But we know how our winter months kind of go here. But actually, we haven't had too harsh of a winter the last couple seasons. So
all of the illegal immigrants that they've put on the Cape, that's going to impact tourists because they're putting them in these motels, the affordable ones. I guess some of the old ones. I know it's Yarmouth. I think had got quite a lot of Haitians.
Yes, so we do have quite a few of our immigrants in the Commonwealth on Cape Cod, but they're dispersed all over Massachusetts, emergency shelters. We are at our capacity right now. I think it's about 7,400 at the moment. Hopefully that will be peeled back, because we are in a dire strait right now with our constituents of the Commonwealth that are seeking shelter and moving people around. It's been difficult.
Now there are emergency shelters, right?
Yes.
That they've opened.
Yes.
Now, is there going to be something about an application to go in monthly? I heard that.
So I don't believe there's going to be an application monthly.
Or
so
they have or a vetting or requirements of.
And we have discussed that in the legislature, both in the House and the Senate, as far as certain requirements to gain access to our emergency shelter. Obviously, this is law here in Massachusetts,
Right
and
to shelter.
And it is designated for women and children. But there is no priority given to U.S. citizens or people of the Commonwealth. So that's one disheartening thing that my colleagues and I have discussed in the chambers, and putting bills forth to hopefully change that with our colleagues on the other side of the aisle.
I was just going to say, I imagine anything like that. How many Republicans are up at the State House now?
So yes, we have a large majority, on the Democratic side. So we only have 25 in the House.
25.
Yes. So
and in the Senate, do you know?
So in the Senate right now, there's 4 senators currently. So.
It was a shame. It was a shame that I remember. I don't know if you remember all this. Oh, you probably do, because he's in Wrentham. It was a shame that Richard didn't step down and make it easy for that fellow that wanted to come in, a Republican.
Yeah.
And so he stayed, and I just.
Yeah,
and
I'm
he
not
didn't
sure
even
about
campaign.
I mean, that was before my time. I'm not sure about the ins and outs of why Richard decided to do what he did.
Well, I imagine it had to do with a pension.
I'm really not sure.
Me neither, but I mean, it's sort of logical.
Yeah.
And it was kind of, I remember that, and it was kind of a shame, because it was a fellow that wanted to. I don't know whether he ended up not running or how it all shook out. Now. You were just talking about something before we started. I read that there's, well, I guess you don't say freeze. I guess it's not a politically correct term. What do you say? A hiring what? Hold off or stand back? Or?
Yeah. However you want to, put it. With the budget crisis that we're in today, I mean, I applaud the governor and the executive team for taking a step back to not hire anyone else in the executive.
Was that how it's going to be?
Staff, yes.
Yeah, they were hiring it, right.
But on the other end, unfortunately, they did increase salaries with the current executive staff. I mean, her staff. As a business owner myself, I mean, we went through some trials and tribulations during COVID. Myself and my business partner, decided to take a freeze on any bonuses for the executive staff within our company and reduced our salaries in order to sustain, the the employees and the families that
that's what
we were
Republicans
caring
do.
for. So it's just unfortunate to see, at the state level, we're not doing the same when we're in a budget deficit right now.
And also, there's some staff that's not getting that's being held at the same salaries. You mentioned something about Senate staff or
so
or
there
the House
has
staff.
been no. So there has been an increase as far as pay on the Senate side as well.
You cannot make this stuff up.
Yes.
You think you've heard it all, and then of course you're always wrong. Now, what about the? There was some other question I had for you. So what's the latest? Yes, what's the latest regarding the occupation of the Roxbury Recreation Center?
Yeah, so it's still fully occupied now. I don't know if you know. So
yes, I do.
I partly
yes,
I partly grew up in Boston. My mom is a small business owner in Boston in Roxbury.
Oh.
My two aunts have taken over my grandfather's business, so we have a family business. My grandfather has a park named after him
In Roxbury?
down in Eggleston Square in
Get
Boston.
out.
Yeah. The Robert G. Lawson Park, but my whole family.
I know, I never knew that.
Yeah, barbers and barbershops and salons.
Really?
So I'm really involved in a lot of things that go on in Boston, and growing up there as a young child and working for my grandfather for so many years.
So where did you go to school?
So I went to school in North Attleboro, and we've always my parents live in North Attleboro, but obviously in the summer months I would work at the barbershop, and my grandparents were both sets of my grandparents. One lived in downtown Boston, Roxbury. The other one in Milton, which is abuts the Boston city line. So we were always in Boston.
But so you didn't go to high school in Boston?
No, I did not. No, at North Attleboro High School. So. Yes.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Now.
And so,
yeah.
back to your question,
Oh, yes.
as far as the recreation facility, that's a facility that I frequented, many times in the past, especially when I was younger. And I know, people in the community have really spoken up
yes.
about, that facility being used for their families and their children. And now they're kind of pushed out and having to,
They're absolutely pushed out.
There's a lot of services provided at the Roxbury Community Center that now they're getting pushed out of because of the migrant situation that we're in. You're putting that situation in Black and brown communities where they're already struggling, and
Exactly.
they don't have the necessary resources. Some of that we do here in the suburbs, and it's
and
really
yet,
disheartening.
you see all these signs in these wealthy towns where they're not sending them.
Yes.
And it's this virtue signaling. I just find it repulsive
Yes.
because everybody knows it's fake.
Yeah, on a higher scale, we have a true problem, and it starts at the border, and not having a focus on border security, and it's affecting not only Massachusetts but a lot of major cities across the U.S. and communities.
Well, it's
like ours,
horrible.
so.
I don't understand. It's unsustainable. I don't know what's going to happen to us.
Yeah.
Now, what are you? Oh yes, tell me about the committee appointment.
Yeah, so I recently was appointed to the Joint Ways and Means Committee.
Now, what does that entail?
So we basically
Has to do with
it's the most
allotting money for
prestigious
things,
yeah, it's the most prestigious committee in the House and Senate, and we
is it?
basically manage the budget of the state. So we just completed a listening tour across the Commonwealth to all the executive offices and hearing leadership, what their wants and needs are for fiscal year 25. Yeah, I'm very proud to be on that committee, and I think it's a testament to some of the work I've done up until this point, and my background as far as being a small business owner and being able to manage a budget, appropriately. So
Now, what would those accomplishments be that they recognized by appointing you to?
yeah, I think again, my background in business, I think was one of the sticking points, and just the work that I've been able to do with certain levels of government up until this point, and here in the community with the small business sector. I'm very proud of the work I've done, been able to accomplish within the last year with all the committees I serve on: public safety, homeland security, small business, and innovation. So I think that work alone.
Do you stay on those, or
yeah? So I still stay on those with the new appointment of the House Ways and Means. So.
Now let me just ask you something. When you went up there as a Republican, are they cordial? I mean, do you feel that they sort of try to suppress any input from the Republicans? What's the relationship like? It can't be
when it comes down to the nitty-gritty of voting, especially on a topic like migrant funding. Yes, there is some there's the back and forth, the backroom deals that happen without our input, really. But my colleagues on the other side, I've gained a lot of friends on the other side already. I came in with a great class. Obviously, I was the only Republican that came in with that class of.
And how many were
25 of us.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, and I've
4%.
Yeah, and I've gained some great friendships already within the last year, and. A lot of them are really great people, and they're there for the people's work of the Commonwealth. I think what gets lost in translation a lot of the times is the divisiveness of both ends of the spectrum. On the Republican side and the Democratic side. And I think for the most part, I truly believe a large majority of us are in the middle and can come to an agreement on important topics that affect our communities and the Commonwealth as a whole.
But ultimately, can you really get anything through that's genuinely a Republican proposal?
Yeah, it's been really tough, especially in the landscape and in the important issues, because we are in a significant budget hole right now, and with this migrant issue, we recently had the gun bill that came up as well. That was 120 plus pages long.
Now tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, it was an all-encompassing gun bill, and my thoughts on that is I am one for advocating for common sense gun laws. I'm not a gun owner. I'm not going to sit here and say one day I may be a gun owner, but I truly believe in your Second Amendment rights. And being able to protect, your family and your property. Most of the gun infractions in the state are from illegal guns and from the same, actors that
Correct.
Continuously get, busted for these criminal infractions. And we continue to let these people out. It's a small, percentage of repeat offenders that, create a problem for all of us here in the Commonwealth.
Well, that mirrors what they're doing in the federal courts. But so is there a no bail rule in Massachusetts?
There isn't a no bail rule, but with bail reform that we've seen here in the Commonwealth, it keeps getting progressively worse as far as not holding people accountable. I have a good friend, Representative Steve Exaros in the Republican caucus. He was a police chief. He had an officer and a canine that was killed when he was on as a police chief, and that offender, I believe, had over 10 different counts, gun charges on him, and he was still let out on the streets. If we can't uphold.
Was this a citizen? Do you happen to know?
He was a Massachusetts citizen. If we can't hold people accountable for these infractions and keep them behind bars, we're going to continue to have the same thing. Adding more laws on the books and not taking care of the laws that we have on the books and mandating those laws on the books. It's not going to change until we do that. I remember teaching. I mean, the nicer you were, the more of what you didn't like you got. It just limits are part of. It's just part of the human psyche. Yes.
You just go on and on and on until Now, what are you looking at anything now? Is there any news that you have for us of what's coming?
No, so next week is
legislatively.
Yeah, so next week is a very important week for us. So it starts, our House budget deliberations. So we start on Wednesday of next week. We'll be in for 3 or 4 days deliberating the House budget.
Well, that must be impacted by all of the immigrants.
A lot of it is.
I mean, where's the...
So, yeah, I mean, a lot of it is because of the spending we've had up until this point, which we really, I mean, we've spent well over $1 billion so far.
Oh, yes. I wanted to ask you about that figure. I heard something about a monthly figure.
Yeah, again, you know, with the audits or lack thereof of audits, we really don't know the true figure, and money is getting, you know, pushed into different pockets and different programs where, you know,
well, it's kind of fudged around, isn't it, cooked, as they say?
Non-government agencies are able to, you know, subjugate, you know, the budget process by us filtering money to them. So we really don't know, you know, the true figure of it all.
Now, wasn't it supposed to? Was it No, it must have been in the state that they were looking forward to a big audit. That never happened, did it?
No, it has not happened yet. So,
gee, that's a surprise. How could such a thing have been put off?
So a couple of weeks ago, there was a committee hearing where the state auditor, again, was pushing for a comprehensive audit, which
She is a Democrat. Who is that?
Yes, so it's Diane DeZaglio, our state auditor, and I am a co-signer, one of, you know, very few legislators, both on the House and Senate, that have, you know, pushed for this audit.
Yes, I remember that.
I think it's really important. Again, we are doing the people's work. The book should be open. You know, we should have visibility to everything that we're doing up on Beacon Hill. And she made this, you know, as she ran for a state auditor, this was one of her prime agendas to get an audit done that really hasn't been done since the early 90s. Now, you know,
early 90s?
So before that, the legislature was audited up until this point, and for some reason it stopped.
25-something years?
Yes. And we are one of the only...
Well, that tells you everything you need to know, doesn't it?
It really does. We are one of the only states in the country that has not been audited.
Oh, my...
So you can only imagine, you know, what's been going on.
So on those, how many signatures were on that endorsement? Or
So I'm not sure on the exact figure. I can get back to you on how many signatures she
all
needed
Republicans?
To get.
Did all the Republicans sign?
So I believe a majority of the Republicans signed. I'm not sure on the number of Democrats, but she's really pushing to have this question come up on the next you know, ballot initiative. So. I think letting the people of the Commonwealth speak and being able to vote on whether or not our state should be audited, I think would be you know, truly warranted at this time.
Now, would that audit include who proposes what spending, or would it just be about the spending in general?
It would be the spending in general. Yeah, and auditing all departments across our state.
Because who proposes some of these expensive, you know, initiatives? I think that's worth knowing for the constituents, to know who's pushing for more and more money and on what it's being spent.
Yes. I mean, having that visibility, I think, is vitally important. I always make sure that you know, whatever push I have for legislation and policy, I get out to the community. I would hope, you know, I think for the most part, a lot of my colleagues on both sides of the aisle make sure that they are updating, you know, their constituents of what they're pushing for. What I don't like is, you know, the backdoor deals that are being done without the people's knowledge, and with our say as constituents, because you know, it's very important that we know, you know, where our elected officials stand on, you know, the progress of our Commonwealth.
Now, you talked about the closed door meetings that Republicans are not allowed in.
I wouldn't say not allowed in, but and there's a lot of backdoor, and not many of those. So you
end up. Obviously, you end up finding out about everything.
Yes, after the fact, or we get presented a bill at the 11th hour. You know, pages long,
which they know about,
that we're not able to, you know, drill down to, you know, the specifics of a bill, and then we have to vote on it. That should never happen in any form of government.
I mean, it's just egregious, isn't it?
It really is.
Now, tell me some more about that recreation center in Roxbury. Have people continued to complain? Because, you know, I mean, African Americans were always a big or I think it's changing now, but a big voting bloc for Democrats,
Yes.
and yet they have no problem with the immigrants trumping African American rights, particularly here. And I imagine I don't think any of these people want people coming into the neighborhoods that they don't know. I think
for the most part, we as a people, we're very, sympathetic to the situation that a lot of people come from, and want the best for everyone. But when you start taking away, resources from an already struggling community and giving it to, people that haven't gone through the right channels to get here in our country, and if money is readily available, as it has been so readily available in this migrant situation,
that's right,
then why hasn't that money been flown to the communities in need? And even here in our communities where we're struggling, a lot of our school systems, we're in a budget deficit across the board. That money could be used for a lot of, great programs and, teacher layoffs that we've seen over the last couple weeks in a lot of these districts. But this is part of the problem. All the money being flown out because of the border crisis right now.
So let me ask you. So they're going to have to, the schools are going to get flooded with these children. So do you think that the state will try to go to the federal government to make up the money that they're going to need? They're going to have all kinds of, there'd be bilingual that's not even readily available. Some of these people speak tribal languages. Some of them are speaking African language, all different from 130 different countries.
So I know a lot of schools right now already have resources available as far as translation services, digital services available to the children that I know a lot of our administrators and teachers are utilizing today pretty effectively. I've been in the schools along with my legislative aide, Rob Tugas, and we've seen it in action. Teachers are doing a tremendous job with very limited resources. Again, the state is, footing the bill for a lot of this, and the federal government desperately needs to step up to make sure that we are whole with a, situation both, from the Republican and Democrat side that they've created and not had attention to, over countless number of years as far as securing the border.
But those resources you mentioned, there are regulations about how many teachers, how many students per teacher. So they're going to have to hire teachers.
Yes, and as we know, there's great difficulty as far as hiring suitable teachers at the moment. And retaining teachers at the moment, and when they're severely stressed with, teachers. My wife is a teacher in the Foxborough school system, and some of the things that teachers go through on a day-to-day basis outside of having to now, have to translate, for new students coming in, a bank of new students coming in, just adds to the, level of stress and lack of support that they may already have. Well,
again, they're having trouble finding teachers because, again, referring to the leniency that you mentioned, teachers are afraid. They don't want to struggle like that. I remember for me, and I'm sure it's much worse now. It was tough. It was not easy, and people would say, "Well, gee, if they just don't want to do it."
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and
and that's you can blame that right on the Democrats for all this leniency, and as you say, letting people go. All that filters down to children.
Yeah, and luckily here in 9th Norfolk District, we have a great administrative staff, both from KP, regional school district to our Norfolk school district, Rentham, Plainville, the other precincts I serve in Walpole, Millis, and Medfield. Those administrators do a great job making sure that our teachers are well cared for and, trying their best to retain the great teachers that we have in our school system. So I'll always, continue to advocate for them and do everything in my power to make sure that our schools are in the best position possible, for now and the immediate future. And sustained as they should be.
All right, so we've come to the end of our time. So they're going to put your information on the bottom third, and then you have a newsletter.
I do have a newsletter.
Just tell people how to get that.
Yeah, so you can just drop us a line via email at marcus.vaughn@mahouse.gov. My legislative aide, Robert Tugas, robert.tugas, Tougas, at mahouse.gov. And we can sign you up for the newsletter for our quarterly newsletter that we send out. I also post it on social media. My social media handles are just Rep Vaughn, R-E-P Vaughn, across Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
All righty. Well, listen, best of luck to you.
Thank you very much, Anne-Marie.
Thank you for coming.
Yes,
and thank you for watching State and Local. My name is Anne-Marie Battistone. We're on Norfolk Public Access, and hopefully I'll see you again with some other candidates. Thanks for watching. I'm Anne-Marie Battistone.